our next speaker I've known for more than 15 years, and I've learned so much from him, not necessarily about physics, but about being an engaging teacher, about being someone who's willing to risk and try new things, and he's taught me a lot about technology use. And so I'm so excited to welcome to the stage Chandler Gilbert faculty who has recently retired, Dr. David Weaver, my friend.
So, I am glad to be back in black, but I'm also glad to be in the pink and green of the Fighting Artichokes. I started at SCC in January of '82, and soon thereafter met and married the lovely and talented SCC Theater Emeritus faculty, Kim Williamson, and then our daughter now teaches here. And it's amazing that all three of us started teaching here when we were 24. So, what is the name of the mascot? Artie. So it's probably not a big surprise that Scottsdale Community College is very interested in adding art to STEM. And so last year, SCC hosted a STEAM conference, and then the Odyssey of the Mind was there, another STEAM kind of activity. But this goes way back. Pythagoras was a mathematician, a musician, a philosopher. If you look at Leonardo, that he did art, he did science, he did invention. But somewhere along the way, we decided to start splitting things out, putting education into silos. And I think that hurts our students. I think it works best when we can integrate knowledge. So the National Science Foundation recognized this problem back January of '11, and they put together a conference called STEM to STEAM. And so this is a video that came out of that, where you have some STEM folks talking STEMmy kinds of things, and an artist talking arty kinds of things. But they're talking past each other. They're not really communicating. And so you'll see that the STEMs, that they know what they're saying to each other, and the art keeps on trying to communicate. Now, if we look, here's STEM folks trying to take art and putting it into a nice bow. But you can't do that with art. And so what you have to realize is when you can actually get the communication amongst all of these areas, that you can come up with things that wouldn't be possible elsewise. And so they're now actually trying to engage in dialogue. And you'll see now we've made connections. And so when you can pull the arts in to the science, technology, education, mathematics, you can start to create all kinds of things that wouldn't be possible elsewise. And so what I have chosen to do is to attempt to integrate all kinds of different activities into my physics courses so that can try to deal with the whole student. And so this last semester I taught 4 courses. In Physics 111 it was a blended course for the first 8 weeks. And one of the things that I do in all the courses is use open educational resources, which you'll be hearing about in the next presentation. But it's a regular course, but in this one, what I had students do is one of the educational resources was a video game using VPython. And so it's physics for video games. And so this is a lunar lander program that students made. And then there's the venerable asteroids. And you can imagine there's all kinds of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics in this, but the fact that they are doing this gaming is, I think, bringing some art into it as well. And so that was what they did for the first 8 weeks in that class. For the Physics 112, that I had 2 flavors of it. One was a semester-long project-based, and in all classes, students do weekly videos.
Sorry I'm late,
and then
man. I had a map and everything, man, and somehow I ended up in El Monte. So then I asked directions, you know? And then I ended up in Wilmington, man. Then I asked directions again, I ended up in Compton. I didn't ask anybody there, man. I just drove out of Compton, ended up in Pasadena, and finally found a hitchhiker, man. And they're coming here, so that's how I ended up here, man. I'm sorry I'm late, man.
And so they do an end of semester as well, and Andy turned it in late. That's why she prefaced it that way. And they have to argue for the grade that they got in the class, so she wants a A. So in addition to doing the projects, they do all kinds of different discussions. And so there was one that they had to do talking about what is physics, what is reality, and is physics real? And it was a very engaging conversation.
This isn't real. What is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, what you can taste and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
And I think I first saw a version of this here at SCC at some presentation. But students pulling all of this together, I think, goes back to what Andrew talked about in one of the initial talks about the new Bloom's taxonomy having creation as being a primary thing. And this is a very student creative piece. The first project was to take the circuit board out of a disposable camera and make a coil gun to shoot BBs. And so this is a pair of students. Andy, the one is on the right, and then Melba here on the left. And they're wrapping magnetic wire to make the barrel of the coil gun.
Electromagnetic wire.
They also made several more.
Okay, so this is the finish coil wrap into 1 inch. Okay, so nothing is soldered in right now. So I'm shooting and sparking, so this is like a preliminary run. What? Okay, so clearly I have some more
It
work
shot
to
a lot
do.
further on the day of performance.
And once again, this is Melba.
But she put together several additional videos, and then for work ended up being able to use some of that, and she's going to end up being on Larry King because of some of the video work that they've done. These are all the various coil guns that they came up with, and you can see a great deal of creativity there. So I think that there is some STEAM going on. Second project, build a telescope, and then end up researching a major astronomical project. And this is one of the telescopes that one of the student groups built. Some amazing stuff.
I definitely do believe I deserve the A here in this class. Just sheer, amount of knowledge that was imparted to me through really my own research, but also your guidance was just where I was at, and I don't think I would have learned as much about as many different things and as in depth as I did had it not been for this method.
And a lot of students say that about this kind of course structure. The second 8 weeks, I did another version of the Physics 112 where students purchased a Arduino kit. It's a microcontroller, and it has 14 different projects that they work on. And some of them are very artsy. You have a touchy-feely lamp and a motorized pinwheel. But then they had to put together a final project. And they had to choose what it was and come up with something.
It's supposed to be a lie detector.
So this is the lie detector.
So you know, put these little sensors on and then ask a bunch of questions, and when you're lying, when you're more likely to be lying, it goes up. So it's hit and miss. It's not the greatest, but It didn't work very well with my husband, but my 8-year-old, big time.
This uses kind of like a randomizer, which will randomize the LEDs and all stuff. So what you're supposed to do is just memorize the order of the lights. And so when you get it right, it'll replay the song. Get it wrong when you stop.
Plays a sad tune.
Right. There you are. And so what you can do is when you like when you want to play again, you can also reset it to where it'll start to the
It'll start off as 4 LEDs blinking, and it goes up in level every time. So add one LED. It's progressively harder, and the maximum is 16 flashes, and it's pretty quick.
That is really fun.
And then to show that we actually understood how to do it, we kind of made a Christmas version of it.
This is on your iPod?
64 individual LEDs soldered together in a cube.
Yeah.
What's picking up the sound? Nothing.
We just put music on. It's programmed. It's programmed to just like go in a certain like sequence. We just added music at the end because any techno music works.
I totally thought it
Had
was
us
too.
all fooled. Last January, I attended a 4-day workshop where half of it was talking about digital fab labs, which is something you're going to hear a lot more about, I hope, here in Maricopa, but then also about building electric guitars. And so over the course of 4 days, we built an electric guitar. And what they were trying to do is to get people to consider having students build guitars in classes. And so I created a Physics 101 where students build guitars. And this is a student-built guitar. But in that first part that I talked over, one of the things they had to do is attend the Music Instrument Museum. And if you haven't been there, you gotta go. The place is amazing. But we did traditional physics stuff, and especially it was front-end loaded because there was production problems, so I wasn't able to get the guitars kits to the students until the 6th week. She likes my shoes. And this is a student put together this video just showing all of the various things that she did, and again, very traditional physics, well, not traditional, but traditional topics. And using all kinds of computer technologies, video analysis, doing Excel modeling, doing VPython modeling, computational physics kind of stuff. And so there's clearly mathematics involved, but there's also, I think, an artsy sort of thing with some of the physics they did. And then once the kits came and they actually started to build guitars, then I think there was a great deal of artwork that ended up going into that. Now, I don't know if you picked up, but the population of most of my courses are over 50% female. This class, the Physics 101, the guitar building, 3/4 are female. Now, I can't claim that is because we do other kinds of stuff other than just equations, but it could be. So we finally got the kits, went into our aviation lab where we did a lot of the heavy construction. And the woman that put together this video, that very first day, she asked, "Can I cut the body up a bunch?" And I said, "Well, sure, but with wood, if you cut it off, you can't put it back on." And her comment was, "Go big or go home." And so she went big. And she did all kinds of work on it. And here shortly, you'll see that she took it to an auto body shop where she had it professionally painted, and it ended up looking just absolutely gorgeous. The bulk of this class had never touched a power tool before. But it was very empowering for them to use drill presses and band saws and major drilling, etc. They all had to design and cut their own headstock. They had to construct the neck and actually put radiuses on it, etc. Lots of sanding and more sanding and wet sanding. So they had lots of experience. I'm not sure that our custodial staff was quite as appreciative of all of that. But you'll see that the students stayed very engaged, and they ended up producing some amazing guitars. Each of them built one for themselves, and then each team built an additional one for other purposes. And so this is one of the additional ones that I have. But again, I could keep on jumping back to the physics, and then more sanding, and then some more physics and some more sanding. I think it's something that by the time that they finished with this, that they felt that not only is it physics that they'll remember probably the rest of their life, but it was an incredible experience for them. And there was an amazing amount of bonding, because when you have hours of sitting across the table from somebody sanding, you have lots of conversations. So this is a course that I hope we can continue to offer. And that one right there was just hers. There were some challenges that we had with certain things breaking, certain mistakes, certain injuries. And the very first day that she had her painted guitar to class, she dropped it in the parking lot and dinged it all up. So she ended up having to go back to the body shop and get some more body work done. But they did all kinds of soldering, all kinds of mechanical skills. And then once you actually get things assembled, which is a challenge, then there's a lot of work that has to go in getting things tuned in properly. Because it's not like these strings can be any length. They have to be exactly the right length. And so they had to learn what intonement meant, and to be able to go through and make fine adjustments. And this was something they just did for fun one day. So I still have the little Gene Simmons piece. It actually hung on our Christmas tree this year. And this is the vice president, because he's a rocker, and he came the day that we were doing the stringing up, and he could show students how to actually wind things up. And here in a moment, you'll see all of them in a single photo. You can see this one there in the middle. And then this is the class, the final day when they were all created. Stick your tongue out. So I hope you consider being STEAMy. Thank you very much.